All right, welcome to Mobile APIs and Frameworks. We're just going to go through this slideshow again. Um, Again, syllabus and course outline are in the exact same spot as the other two courses, so they're under course information. You can find all the faculty information there, benjamin.vinergon@georgiancollege.ca is the contact info, and then yeah, the syllabus as well as the course outliner there. Cool. So just close that. There you go. So what you're going to get out of this class, so the course description is application programming interfaces or APIs and frameworks can be used to extend the functionality of applications by integrating into other applications and services. Students learn how to leverage common APIs and frameworks into their mobile applications. So show of hands or speak up if you have any experience using APIs before. It doesn't have to be with mobile applications. It can be with anything. Yeah, Nina, you have? Cool. Yashu, yeah. Oh, Brendan, you have? Awesome. Mega? Oh, cool. Awesome. And DC, you guys have all used APIs before. Okay. Um, if you guys want to, I don't know if one of you guys wants to talk or type in the chat, just explain a little bit, like which APIs did you guys use? Was it for web? Was it for mobile? Was it like Google Maps? Did you use Gmail web APIs, third party? Did you make your own? What kind of experience do you guys have with APIs so far?
I use many APIs like Google Location, Google Places, Direction, and also Twilio, where we can send WhatsApp message directly from our application.
Twilio, is that, yeah, Twilio is the one?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Those are all, yeah, super popular APIs, location, Google services, Google Play services basically is like a huge one. For Android, was it that you guys used them for, or was it for like web stuff?
Yeah, it was for Android.
Android, yeah. Was that in this course, like last semester, or was that like before in your undergrads or?
The Google APIs were for the last semester, whereas the Twilio I used it for in my bachelor's to create a final project.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, so then you guys have experience with Android using some Google Play services then. Awesome. Project based via XML and JSON. Okay, Mega, do you want to talk about that a little bit? What was that for Georgian stuff, or was that for something you worked on before? Oh, nope, no one's there.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
sorry, my mic was on
No
mute.
worries. You're
Yeah,
good, you're good.
it's actually late in here, so I was sleepy. I'm working. I'm currently in India only.
Oh,
So,
you are? Oh, wow. What
yeah,
time is it there?
it's uh, it's 12:39 a.m. in the night.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. This is gonna be a late one for you. Oh, sheesh, I'm sorry. Um, who else?
Okay.
I didn't know. I thought everyone was coming from Canada. So where's everyone based right now? You're in India. Is anyone
Yeah.
else in India right now? Or is it just you? Okay, you're in Canada, Nina. Yeah. A couple of you are in Canada. Canada.
Yeah, I was about to travel, then travel ban happened.
Oh,
So bad
sheesh.
luck. So we actually fetched via XML and JSON from other APIs. From project within, we fetched the data from project APIs itself and from the client side APIs.
Oh, okay. So, what was like the end product that you guys actually ended up making?
It was a web app only.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's awesome. That's good experience. And Brendan, you said that you used some for web, mostly for web.
When I was working in my previous company, so we used to write APIs in Node.js.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Were they mostly Google ones that you guys were using, or they were like stuff in Node?
Mostly Node.js, a
Yeah.
couple in Google,
Yeah.
especially when we were using the speech to text.
Sweet.
So all those kinds of services, yeah. A couple of GraphQL APIs as well.
Oh, yes, yes. That's the one by Facebook, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that's sweet. So you guys all have heard of or used or have some experience with APIs. So that's great. Has anyone built their own API, like with their own calls and like REST calls and functionality and like coded the endpoints from scratch? Yeah, you have, Brendan? Cool, cool. That was for when you were working at that company?
Yeah, in my previous workplace.
Yeah, okay, cool. That was all in Node then that you're doing that?
Yeah, mix of Node and Python.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, sweet. So you can help me teach this course then, and then great. That's awesome. So feel free if you have a ton of experience with that stuff, honestly though, to yeah, if someone ever needs help or anything like that, and you've got some experience and you guys all know some stuff about APIs, then yeah, just speak up and um we can totally collaborate and help each other out. That's sweet. Um, great. So this should be good. Moving on. So the four learning outcomes here at the bottom of the slide extend native functionality of a mobile application by consuming third-party APIs. So that's like using, yeah, Google Maps, location services, Google Places and stuff. Just extending the functionality of an app that you maybe already have. So we're going to do a bit of that. Creating a web-based API for a mobile application. So we'll all have, by the end of this, hopefully, the same as what Brendan has, some experience building our own APIs and making some of those endpoints and just understanding, how does it work? What is REST? And what's the proper procedures for making an API for a mobile application? Analyzing and interpreting API responses to API calls. So again, that's just understanding all the calls that they make between the client and the server and the requests and responses that are happening. So, puts and posts and calls, all those things, those terms we'll get a chance to play around with. And then the last one there, implementing a social API into a mobile application. Has anyone done anything like that? So I think you said Twilio lets you do some social stuff.
Yeah, it's Twilio.
Twilio, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, so we can totally look into using Twilio, and we can also look into some others, alternatives besides that. Sweet. Great. So course content, third-party APIs, as already mentioned, we'll cover REST, so representational state transfer. We'll talk about that a bit today. JavaScript object notation, so JSON, that's how you pass the data. Callbacks, OAuth, webhooks, social APIs, analytics, and payment gateways. We're going to cover all of that stuff throughout the year, which will be cool. This course is 70% assignments and again 30% tests. I know it says projects there. I need to change that still. So it's the same exact grading structure as mobile web applications. The only one that's just assignments and projects is the first one of the day, which is mobile app portfolio. So you'll have 2 tests in mobile web applications and 2 tests in mobile APIs and frameworks. Cool. Same thing with late submissions, submission and appeal. So rough schedule is going to look something like this. So today we're going to go over our intro to APIs, frameworks, and representational state transfer. Next week we'll cover some JSON and we'll continue talking about REST and diving into that. And we'll discuss assignment 1. Using third-party APIs and implementing them into our own applications, we'll start to get into in week 3. So we might just make like a real simple mock application, or I'll give like a basic framework for maybe an Android application or something like that that you can run on your phone, and then using a third-party API. or we can actually implement it into our mobile web application that we're going to build in the other course, or whatever you guys want to use for your mobile app portfolio. So we'll get there at week 3. We'll talk about callbacks, week 4, OAuth, week 5, so security, protocols. We'll talk about webhooks, week 6, and then you'll have your test 1 there before reading week. And then after reading week, we'll come back and we'll look at analyzing and interpreting API responses to the API calls. And assignment 3, week 9, we'll do implementing some social APIs into the application. And then this is where, towards the end, I like to leave a little bit of room. So I've got 2 weeks there that are the same, and there can kind of be some overlap from week 9 to 10 and 10 to 11, 11 to 12. So creating a web-based API for mobile application, we'll have a couple weeks for that. And then we can touch on some analytics and payment gateways during all of that development as well. So kind of from week 10 to 14, we'll be developing our own API, as well as, looking into some basics of analytics and payment gateways on top of that. And then, you'll have assignment 5 and then test 2 at the end there. Cool. Sweet. All right. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So an API stands for an application program interface, and it's basically a technical development environment that enables access to another party's application or platform. So they're super handy tools that we can use as developers to access other development environments in a safe way. So the most famous and most often used by mobile developers is Facebook's API. So it allows mobile developers limited access to profile identities, verification ID on login, basically allowing you to, as a Facebook member, to sign up for another app like Candy Crush or something like that using your Facebook account. Now, a lot of companies have started doing this too, like Google. You can sign in with Google, Google's sign-in API, and other accounts like that as well. So that's just a really popular example. So what is an API? If you're building an application that uses a variation of client or server model, you need an application programming interface. So basically, it's a clearly defined boundary between one process and another. And typically, it's a REST or JSON API for web applications. So we can kind of do a bit of work because I'm also having you guys with mobile web applications. We can kind of cross over using APIs in our mobile web applications and kind of involve it in both. In short, basically, they enable apps to interact with each other. They can enhance the user experience, and they might even help fuel the popularity of your app. Cool. So here's just a basic diagram. So you have your system here, which is like your app, right? And then we have prices. So say you have like a shopping app or something like that, and you want to sell, whatever, drumsticks or something like that. And someone searches the keyword ID, the keyword drumsticks, and you use a price API that communicates with a bunch of different price data sources. So you can see on the right there, you have Amazon, eBay, Google Shopping, and 17 other data sources. And this price API will, kind of scrape all of these sites or scrape the web, get the best price, and maybe return a list organized by lowest to highest price for, a specific drumstick. Or if you had a product ID, then it could do it for the product ID. If you had a barcode, it could search for the barcode, and it would bring that data back. It would query those data sources, and then would bring it back through the API and show it on your system, parsed as JSON, and then you could show it, style that however you want. Does that make sense? Cool. So an example of third-party APIs that we can just cover here. Basically, any big company is going to have an API. It's just kind of smart for them because they want other people using their stuff as much as possible, right? So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google Maps is a huge one. Anytime you use an app and you see Google Maps embedded in that, they're using the API. Because why would I go out and build, a brand new map app location when I can just use an API that just shows an already greatly designed map application on the screen. So Google develops Google Maps, and then you have Apple that just recently, over the last couple of years, has developed Apple Maps. As probably some of the main competition, but there's not a ton of mapping applications out there because Google is pretty much the main one. Location services, YouTube has their own for video content, AccuWeather. So if you wanted to show weather in your app, instead of having to like design from scratch, how to get weather information from the nearest weather tower or whatever, you can just use this API and get location data from the phone. Flickr, if you want to get photos, Gmail, Firebase, Google Analytics, and Amazon Web Services, AWS. So characteristics of APIs. One of the most popular types of API is REST, or sometimes you can call it RESTful. So basically, API REST, basically, you can think of them as endpoints and WSDLs. So desktop developers may think of APIs as like a library code written by developers from their organization. If you were writing like low-level code, you'd think of an API like a driver almost. But basically, it provides hooks into system calls. So it allows you to interact with someone else's application. So REST, or representational state transfer, can be used over nearly any protocol. When used for web, it usually is going over HTTP. So many developers have no need to install additional software or libraries when creating a REST API, which is really nice. The key advantages of REST APIs is they're super flexible and data is not tied to resources or methods. So REST can handle multiple types of calls, returning different data formats, and the data is not, it's stateless. So we can go here to this next screen and show. So you have your database, your web server, the RESTful API, and your website application. So your website application, has all the styling and all the front end stuff that makes it look really pretty. And, you search for drumsticks because you want to get the best price, and it will, make a call to the RESTful API, like get, using the HTTP method, get, the best price on drumsticks. And then your RESTful API will contact the web server will contact the database or whatever the data source is and return, 15 of the lowest priced drumsticks. It'll communicate back to the web server and then back through the RESTful API in JSON format and show up on your website application, and you can style it however you want. So basically, when you're saying it's stateless, means like the information or the data isn't stored in your application. It's just passed along throughout this API. So we'll talk a little bit more about that right here on this slide. So REST, or representational state transfer, just a good term to know. So basically, when the transfers are being processed, no data is stored on the server. It's all in the database. And then that's what they mean by the data is stateless. It just means that the session is saved onto the client's end. So you could have searched for those drumsticks, and it's saved on your end on the client, but it's not like saved for every client. It's just specifically just for you. They're commonly referred to as RESTful web services because they implement REST principles. So if you wanted to look up the REST principles, I have a website there at the bottom, restfulapi.net. And over 70% of all public APIs use REST just because it's fast performance, reliability, and ability to scale by reusing modular components without affecting the whole system. So super popular, good thing to know. Basically, REST is an architectural style, and it has like a defined set of rules when you're creating web services. So basically, you create an object of data that's requested by the client. It sends those values in response back to the user. So an example that we can use is if you're requesting a movie in Beijing at a certain place and time, then you can create an object on the server side. And then that object you have, you're sending the state of that object. That's why it's known as representational state transfer. And then that architectural style of REST helps use less bandwidth to make the application more suitable for the internet. So basically, it's often regarded as the language of the internet, just because it doesn't use many resources. So here's another page, another image that kind of, if you know HTTP methods or if you've done anything with those, this helps. So with most applications, have you guys heard of CRUD before? CRUD? Yep. Cool. Yeah. So basically, you always want your application to have CRUD functionality. So create, read, update, delete. And those are kind of the methods that go with the HTTP methods for having that functionality. So if you want to create something, you post. If you want to read it, you use the get. If you want to update it, you use put. If you want to delete, you use delete. And those are kind of the HTTP methods that we'll use when we're creating our own RESTful API. Cool. Oh. Awesome. All right. I just want to open something here. All right. Key considerations. One of the biggest decisions you'll make when implementing your RESTful API is the location of your server hosting. So I've made a RESTful API before. I had to make one for that paramedic application I was talking to you guys about earlier. And I hosted the API on my own desktop computer. And so I could run it as long as I was connected to the same internet on my phone and on my desktop. Then, it was hosting that on a local host port 3000 or whatever through Node, and that API could work and make the calls. But if I actually hosted it somewhere, like AWS on Amazon Web Services or something, then it would be live all the time, and I wouldn't have to worry about making sure my computer's on the same internet, and then anyone can use it, which is just something to keep in mind. So yeah, you can host your own server if you've got the capacity, but cloud hosting would probably be better. You just have to make sure it's scalable, performs well, which AWS is really good at. You also want to make sure that your REST API system is encrypted. And we'll talk about encryption and OAuth later on when we're actually using it to do that for our API. OAuth 2 is one of the more secure ways that you can protect your API. Cool. And then if you guys want, there's a link there for creating a RESTful API mobile app. If you wanted to go through that, there's just a cool little tutorial that you can look at and take the time asynchronously just to go through that and look. Cool. The benefits of an API: saves costs, improves connectivity, encourages innovation, improves marketing, and it just helps make your app more reliable, portable, simplified, and visible. Just a bunch of reasons why you'd want to use it. Okay. Cool. So an example, again, going back to the food or the kitchen. You guys are going to think I'm all about food here. There are 4 parts of a REST API request. So you can see here in the image, you have your customer, you have your waiter, and you have your kitchen. And you can kind of think the customer is the user, the waiter is the API, and the kitchen is the web server, right? So the user is going to make a request, or the customer is going to make a request. The waiter is going to be like, yeah, I can get that for you. And then they go to the kitchen and they request it and they bring it back and then they bring it back to the customer, right? So the 4 parts of an API request. So the first one is your URI, your Uniform Resource Identifier. So basically that's like a URL address, and that's also known as the endpoint. So if you have like your web app is whatever, the scooters.ca /get scooter/ID/1, that's going to be your endpoint. And what it's going to do is use the get HTTP request method. So get scooter is going to be tied to the endpoint. And then it'll get the scooter ID. And then you're going to have another slash. And then whatever ID you put after that is going to be what it returns. So I'll show you guys an example of this after in a little bit. The next part of it, a REST API request, is the HTTP method. So most commonly it's get or post, but you can also use the delete one. I'm also blanking on the fourth one. Headers is the third part of your REST API request. So this can include authentication tokens. They can impose rate limits and perform other administrative tasks. And then your body, which is the actual part of the request. Get, post, put, and delete. That's the one I was missing. Cool. So here's just another slide showing how APIs work. Yeah, you make your request to the web server. The web server sends this to the web app server. That executes the requested task. It gets the data, and then it sends those back to the web server, and then the web server goes back to the client, which is your mobile device, your tablet, and then it appears on your display. Cool. So what I was going to get you guys to explore a bit with here was this first link. I can put it in the chat. Developers.google.com/APIs Explorer. So it's just a list of all their APIs. Feel free to, like, if you want to just look up like another API that you know of, like Facebook or Twilio or something like that. I just wanted to give a couple minutes just to like play around and look at some of the APIs that you can find on there. I was looking at the Gmail one the other day, which is kind of cool. You can actually go down here and hit some of these endpoints and then try the API. So I want you guys to try, seeing if there's some APIs from Google that you can actually input a request parameter, like a user ID, and see if you can get anything to come back. I couldn't get this one working when I used this the other day, but maybe you can create a user. So we can try that. Yeah, and the message. But I think if I execute it, it will probably fail. Yeah. Don't want to sign in. Yeah. Pop-up closed by user. Anyway, so explore with that or with the Facebook API just for a couple minutes. See if you can find anything interesting, any APIs that you can make some calls to. Another one I was looking at was like APIs for drones and stuff, and doing development for drones. There's really cool APIs out there that you can interact with as well. And then the other thing, whoops. The other thing I wanted you guys to do, let's see if I can just click this link, was download something called Postman. Has anyone used Postman before? An application, excuse me, called Postman. I'll put the link to download it there in the chat. Excuse me. Thumbs down if you haven't heard of Postman. Or yeah. Any experience with Postman? No? Oh, you have? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So basically, yeah, it's a really easy way to get started using APIs and playing around with them. So download that, get that installed. I already have it installed and running here. So yeah, if you get it installed, it should look something like this. You can sign in with your Google account or whatever. And then it'll just be on the screen here. I'm just going to grab a glass of water. I'll be back in a couple minutes. So download that, and also if you can play around with Google APIs, explore on their API or Facebook, or yeah, just see if you can find anything interesting and get any calls working. I'll just be back in a sec here. Sorry. Alrighty, I'm back. Okay. So, any luck on installing Postman there, anyone? Anyone get that working? Just download and install. Yeah, already installed. Nice. Cool. That's great. I'm sure we'll be using it a lot, so it's a good thing to have installed. Anyone having trouble with getting it working or signing in or still working on it? We can give a couple more minutes if you guys need it. That's going to be the thing. In my third class of the day, I'm always going to be running out of my voice by the end of it. Anybody need anything? No? Thumbs up? Okay. Brendan's good. DC, you're good. Nice. Mega, Nina, you had it installed. Sagar and Yashu, you guys have it? Yep, Yashu, you're good. Okay. Sagar's good. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we've got Postman. You can see. By the way, I don't know how this works. Can you guys see me right now or no? I think you can just see my screen. Now you can see me. I've been on this whole time, but I don't know if you can see me or not. Oh, you can see me. Okay, perfect. All right. I didn't know if I had to put my camera down here or not. Awesome. All right. So basically, Postman is a tool that you can use to reliably test APIs, and it's super easy to use. So this is like the main home workspace here. We're just in our collections. And it comes with a bunch of stock features you'd expect when you're dealing with APIs. So setting your headers, customizing your payload, and a bunch of other stuff that helps just make it a lot more simple. It's not just for testing APIs. You can use it for a bunch of things, depending on if you're working in a team or if you're a project manager and you want to make sure things are working. Quality assurance engineers can use this, and developers also can use it to make active changes while they're working on the API itself. Perfect. Okay, cool. It also does involve collaboration features. So I believe I've never used them before, but you can collaborate through Postman if you're working on API with a team. And yeah, there are different tiers of Postman. This is just the free version, but you can pay pay for more tiers to allow you to like sync up your collections to make sure everyone has the most recent data and everything like that kind of thing. But we won't need that for what we're doing. Cool. So we're going to walk through a couple examples here, covering the concepts of Postman and how to use it. So first, we're going to walk through some simple HTTP requests using a public API for Pokemon. Cool. Does anyone use Pokemon? Know Pokemon? Have Pokemon cards? You love Pokemon. Awesome. This will be a good one for you then, Nina. Cool. Once we understand the basics, then we can get into more stuff like authentication stuff, depending on how we do today. Cool. So once you're logged in and you have this screen, we're going to make, there's some terms you're going to need to know. So requests, if I hit new here, we have requests, right? We have collections, there's authorization. I don't think that one's on here. And then there's environments, workspaces. So basically, I'll just go through kind of what those are. So requests is what it sounds like, basically, specific API requests. So you can make a HTTP or a WebSocket request. Basically, it's get or post to a specific endpoint of the API. And each type of endpoint you have, you'll want to create a new request for so that you can move between them when you're testing. A collection, which is this one here, is basically a group of requests. So it's handy for organizing your requests into different groups. So for your Pokemon, you know, we can play around with that and organize them. But this could be also as simple as two totally different APIs as well. So you could have Twitter's API or Slack's API, as well as you could have two different groups of APIs. So like Twitter tweets versus Twitter accounts, like multiple. Sometimes companies will make more than one API for specific things. Environment. So basically here, it allows you to configure your endpoints using specific variables. Makes it easier for you to use the same endpoints between different environments. So yeah, there it says it saves values you frequently use. Cool. And then the workspace is just basically what it sounds like, but it allows you to manage and organize your different sets of collections and all that stuff. Cool. So we're going to just click HTTP request here, and this will come up. It's asking for a couple things from us. So first thing it requires is a request name. Okay, so we're going to start off by requesting information about a Pokemon called Squirtle. Yeah? You know who Squirtle is? And we will name the request Pokemon Squirtle, just like that, so we know. Cool. It also requires a collection here. So where is it? Search for collection or folder. That one's locked, so maybe I'll make a new folder. So we'll make a new folder, and we'll call it My Favorite Pokemon. The happy face, that's for Squirtle, I'm assuming, Mega. Cool. So we'll create that. Awesome. Oh, I already had one in My Favorite Pokemon. Now it's in both. We'll just leave it here. Cool. Save. Awesome. Okay. So you can click the orange accept button there. And at this point, we have a new request. So now we can build the request. So remember, one of the things that's part of an API is like the get, post, put, delete. There's a bunch of other options here, but those are the main ones, right? So we're going to use get because we want to retrieve information. And then the URL or the URI that we're going to use is right here. I'll post it in the chat so you can just copy and paste it. It's right there. Okay, API. Cool. So just copy and paste that and put it into the URL box. And once you have those set, then you can hit this blue send button on the right and successfully make our first request. Cool. So at first it'll look something like this, really confusing. Now the cool thing is I can also go to my web browser and type that request in. And because it's an API that's hosted on a web server online, I'm here, and this is basically all the JSON in its raw format or minified for Squirtle. It shows the abilities, the name, the levels, learned methods, all those different things. Now, what's another Pokemon? Pikachu. And here we are for Pikachu, right? So I can type them into my browser and I can get it. Now, if you have an app, you can also use a get method and return it back. And then you can style it however you want. If you want to show an image when it equals Pokemon, Pikachu or whoever, then you can show that image. There's this button called Pretty, and it'll basically just make it a lot more readable and indent the JSON for you. So we can see we've got Squirtle's abilities, base experience of 63, and this is just all JSON format. So he has an ability called Torrent, which is ability /67. So I'm sure if we went to this URL, we can learn more about this specific ability, right? And here we go. You can see the effects of that ability, the durations, the language. Cool. Right? So it makes sense. You're requesting, and you can see all this sort of stuff, base experience. There's a ton, actually. Look at this. I can scroll all the way through. Who knew Pokemon was so detailed? All right. So basically, yeah, that's the body. So you can see that's our Squirtle API. That's our JSON object with all of those things like abilities, base experience, and forms. And then on the right here, you should see something called status, right? And if I hover over it, it says 200 okay. That's an HTTP status code. So 200 is good. It means everything was successful and it's working. The time here, so if I hover over it, I can actually see a waterfall, event waterfall of what took what value of time. So the socket initialization took 8.51 milliseconds. The DNS or domain name server lookup took 64 milliseconds. So I can actually see what's the slowest. So when we're building our own API, I can actually see what's the bottleneck, what's slowing me down here. And I've used this before, specifically at one of the startups that I was working at. They had requests for their clients that were taking up to 3 minutes. And we used Postman and the API because they were loading some stuff through GraphQL, and it was taking forever to load a couple million records. And we used Postman, and we used this event waterfall to actually see what's the problem. And like a lot of it was actually like the rendering, like actually rendering the data. But we also minimized like the 2 minutes from the other side of it so that it was only the rendering that was taking up time. And we actually improved it to being about like 74 milliseconds or something, so we could load those millions of records a lot quicker. So yeah, that's basically how long it takes the request to finish. And then size is 216 kilobytes. That's basically just the size of the response data. Cool. So you'll notice up here, it basically looks like a browser tab. If you hover over it, we can actually close. You can save your changes, you can not save your changes, and then you can actually close your requests. So if you wanted to make a new request here, so if I wanted to make another one, I can just hit like a new tab. It's almost like, you know, like using Google Chrome or something, and I can make another new request here, right? So we can save changes here. That's what that orange dot basically means. Control S, and now it's saved. Awesome. So now what we're going to want to do, now that we've created a request, we want to create a collection of our requests. So technically we already had to create a collection called My Favorite Pokemon here. I'm just going to delete the one because I've got a duplicate. So technically we already created a collection, but we're going to create a new one to learn how the collections themselves actually work. So again, at the top left, we're going to click New, and then we'll click Collection here. Is everyone following along still? Is this making sense to people? Is this like a lot of a lot of the same stuff you guys already know. Thumbs up. Nice, Nina. Is this good stuff to know, or is this, you know, you already know it, so you just want to skip it? Good review. Sweet. Good refresher. Nice. All right. So we do new collection, right? And similar to the request, it's going to ask for a name here. So I'll just erase the default name, and we will call this collection Polka API. You can also add a description, but we won't worry about that. All right. So that is now created, and you can see it on the side here, right? We can expand it, and we can see that it's empty. All right. Before we add a request to it, the Polka API has different types of requests, so it makes sense to organize this a little bit more thoroughly. So we can click the three dots here next to the Polka API and add a folder inside of it. And this folder we can rename to Pokemon. So if I just right click it, I can rename it. Done. Perfect. So we have our Pokemon folder inside of our Polka API, right? So basically a folder is like a kind of collection inside of a collection. So now we can add our requests, okay? So on the right side of the Pokemon folder inside of the Polka API collection, we'll click those three dots and then we'll hit add request, all right? We'll name this request Pokemon, okay? So it's kind of confusing. We have a Pokemon request inside a Pokemon folder, but Pokemon is just going to be one of the endpoints of the Pokemon group. So let's say we use that same exact API we used with our Squirtle. So I still have it pasted here, I think. Oh no, that's the ability. I'll just grab it here from chat. All right, so we paste that and we have our request type get, and similar before, when we hit the send button, we should see another successful request, right? Now we can add another request inside of our Pokemon folder. So we can just click those three dots again, add a request. And then we can call this abilities, right? So if we choose our favorite Squirtle ability, so if I go back up to here, if we choose our favorite Squirtle ability, so we've got Rain Dish and we have Torrent, just choose one of them, it doesn't really matter. We can copy this URL value, like what we did before. Just copy and paste, and we can go back into our abilities. We can leave the request, the HTTP request type as get, enter the ability, so 44, or I think the other one was 67 or something like that. And then if we hit send, we'll see all of the effects of the ability. Oh, that's cool too. I didn't even notice some of the effects come in like German or something. So they actually have it in different languages, which is awesome. It's cool. So now we have our Polka API collection with a Pokemon folder representing the group of Pokemon API endpoints, including Pokemon and abilities, right? So you can see that all on the left-hand side. So if you wanted to, you could add a bunch more requests here, but we're just going to leave it there because that's collections. So now we're going to play around with making post requests. Do you guys want to take a quick little break? I don't think I have too much more after this. We'll do the post requests and maybe a little bit more and then call it. Do you guys want to push through, or do you want to take a little break and then we can get back into it? The screen size be increased. Let's see. Good either way. You don't mind anything. Let's see if I can make it bigger. If someone figures out before me, you can just let me know. View, zoom in, control plus equals. There we go. Does that work better for you? How's that one? I don't want to zoom in too much or else won't be able to see. All my tabs are squished now, but all right. Good to continue. Okay, cool. We'll just push through then, and yeah. All right. Is that better? Should I make my text size bigger? Perhaps that's better. If I can do toggle sidebar. I want to see if I can edit my font size settings. Theme, general, font size, here we go. That might help you out. We'll make it like 18 or something. Okay. Is that a bit better for you guys? I might zoom out 1 just because I can't see much, but does that help? Yes. Thumbs up. Party. Party signs. Sweet. Okay. If you want me to zoom in 1 more, I can. It's just a little bit harder for me to see. It's good. Okay. Cool. So what we're going to do now is make a post request, and we're going to use Postman to translate sentences to sound like Yoda. So far, all we've used is get requests, and we've received information. But if we wanted to make a post request where we actually send data, we're going to have to change our HTTP request method to post. So we're going to use something called the Yoda Translator API from funtranslations.com. And this API only takes a single parameter, but it's still a really good public endpoint that we can use to understand this concept. So first, we're going to create a new collection by hitting this little plus, create new collection here with a new request inside of it. So I'm going to name the collection Fun Translations because that's the API that we're using, right? And then I'm going to add a request, add a request, and call the request Yoda. All right. Now this time, instead of using a GET request, our configuration is going to change to changing this to a post. All right. So make sure you change that to post. And then the URL, I'll post it in chat here, is this. And you can put that in your request URL parameter. All right. Now this time, if we hit the send button, we're going to get an error. All right. So we get back error code 400, error parsing JSON malformed to JSON. All right. So that's actually what we're expecting to happen because we never actually set up any data to be posted, right? So we're saying, hey, we want to send something, but we're sending something empty. So they're going to say, well, we can't really parse something empty. So it requires data, so let's add it. So right below the request URL, if we click on this tab called body, then instead of none, we can select raw, okay, as the body type. And then on the far right, we can change text to JSON, all right? Then in the space below, we can add the following. I'll also paste this in chat. It's just a little bit easier so you guys don't have to type. But in brackets, text is going to be the key. And then, hello, I am learning how to test APIs with Postman. All right. I think you could also do that in another way, but whoops, raw JSON. We're going to just do it like this. All right. So I'll put it in the chat. Hello, I'm learning how to test APIs with Postman. Okay. Now, if we click the blue send button, we should get a successful response. Okay. So, oh yeah, see, status 200 okay. It took 400 milliseconds. Total 1 translated. Force be with you. Learning how to test APIs with Postman, I am. And then we see our original text, hello, I am learning how to test APIs with Postman. And the translation was Yoda. Cool. Did that work for everyone? Sweet. So try putting in another sentence if you want. If you want to just play around with it. I think hello will just always be translated to force be with you. So I'm kind of interested to see what this would look like. If we send it, it just says force be with you, force be with you, force be with you, force be with you. Cool. You can try typing your name or something like that, see how Yoda translates it. That's cool. So basically, yeah, Postman doesn't only let us post JSON, like that's just one option, but we can also use other formats that you see here listed in the body type section. So here, you can post form data, you can post raw, binary, GraphQL, JSON. So you have a lot of options depending on what API that we're using requires, right? So yeah, and basically this concept we just used here where we're posting and then we're adding the parameters, that you can apply that concept to any API that allows you to post parameters to it. Cool. I'm just seeing here that we might as well do this one. Okay. So we're going to use one more public API here. Is anyone a fan of Lord of the Rings? So we're going to use the Lord of the Rings API. And you're going to have to create a free account. So here's the link to create a free account. I'll just post it in chat. Let's see, I think that did it. Maybe not, it might not work. They've changed their API. We might not need authentication anymore. That was going to be what I was going to use, but let me just test something here. So I'm going to make a new collection. I'm going to call it Lord of the Rings. Cool. Inside of it, I'm going to create a new folder. So we've already done that. I'm going to call the folder movie. And then I'm going to create, inside of that movie, I'm going to create a request. I'm going to call it all movies. The request will be get, and then we'll see if this will work. Okay, so it actually says it's deprecated. Okay, so let's use this link. Oh, that's not the one. Just gotta find the new V2. If I go like this, send. Nope. Sorry guys, this has just changed since I've done it last. Let's try that. All right. Cool. So if I change it now, immediately we get a status back called 401 unauthorized. So basically it's similar to 403 forbidden, but basically the response has to include an authenticated header. So this is going to be an example that talks about authenticating requests. So the Lord of the Rings API has to be authenticated if you make a request to it. So you can't just use it without authenticating your request. So I'll put this in here, /movie in the chat. You can try it, but you should get a 401 unauthorized response back. Cool. So basically, it's going to request, or to authenticate it, it's going to need an API key. So, you know, when we use Google Maps, when you may have used it in the past, you've probably had to use an API key before. Same with like YouTube or Gmail and most of those things. So I'm going to we're going to have to set up a free account here. And I'm just going to figure out where the new link to get an API key is. Login, sign up. Cool. You shall not pass. Oh, that would have been amazing. That is true. Okay, so here's the link. They should have definitely done that. That would have been awesome. I'm just going to throw my email in there for fast. I create a password for it. So just sign up for a free account. You can just register, log in, and then basically it's going to give you something like this. So once I create an account, this is my email that I registered with, and then this is my access token. Okay, so you have to include this access token or API key in your API calls. Does that make sense? So I just signed up fast. You don't have to validate your email or anything like that. You just have to log in once you've created it, and then you'll get your access token. Cool. Okay, so once you're all set, what we can do, we've got our unauthorized status code. We want to go to the authorization tab right here. So you know how we went to body earlier and we put our post request in? Well, authorization tab's just to the left of that. Okay, and then when we select type, we select a type of bearer token. All right, so bearer token right here. And we put our token in. Okay. And now, just like that, if we hit send, we get a successful response with a 200 OK. Okay, so that's a little bit of an example about sending the token. You can click the headers here. You can get some more information. There's 7 hidden. I wonder if you can see anything. You can see in the header, okay, when this API call gets sent, it's a hidden header, but there's an authorization token with bearer value, and that's our token key right there that's being passed, okay? And it's the same as this. Okay, so does that work for everyone? Cool. So that worked great, but what if we have a bunch of requests that use a single key? Do we have to manage that on each request? Instead of managing it on each individual request, we can manage it on the collection. So if we build another request inside of here, under our Lord of Rings collection and in the movie folder, we'll create another request and we'll call it quotes by movie ID. All right, and we'll make it get, and then I'm going to make sure, because it's the new link, make sure I copy that into here, and then v2/movie/ID. Oops. Okay, cool. Make sure that works with the new link. Okay. I'll put it in the chat in 1 second. Okay. Cool. /ID. All right. So it should be like this. There you go. Cool. All right. So in this request, we're going to use an ID from the response of the first request. So if we go to our first request and we see this, the Lord of the Rings series, the Hobbit series, the Unexpected Journey, the Desolation of Smaug, the Battle of the Five Armies, all the movies, okay? We can just take the ID. I'll copy it from here in our all movies quote, or all movies request. I'll go back to the quotes by movie ID, okay? And then what we want to do in this request is use the ID from that first response. And we're going to go into the authentication tab again. And we're going to say inherit authorization from parent. Okay, so right there. And then, let's see. So we want to click on the 3 dots next to the collection. Right? And then click edit. Cool. Now, in here, we're going to do the exact same thing we did in the first request on the collection configuration. Select the authentication tab, or sorry, the authorization tab. Under type, we're going to select bearer token. And in the token field again, we're going to paste our token. So I'm going to grab my token from over here. I'm going to make sure I keep my movie ID. All right. So there's my token. So now that's in the collection setting. Okay. Cool. Finally, we can click update. Well, that should just update automatically. Okay. What's my movie ID? Done. Oh. Make sure that that is being sent in the header. That did not work. Okay, we'll try that one more time. Edit, authorization, type, bearer token, paste. All right. All right. Oh, we have to save right there. Cool. Now, if we send this, we have to pass an ID in our request. Okay. So, whoops. So I've got my ID value. I'm going to replace the words ID. Boom, send. All right, like this, key, ID, value, done. Is that not working? Okay, we've got my token ID in there. That's good. Sorry, guys, we're just trying to figure this out and make sure this works. ID. If anyone else can get it working, let me know. Okay. Slash movie slash. I think I just want to do this. Turn that off. Boom. There we go. So get rid of the ID thing, turn off the keys. You just put slash movie slash the ID value. So I'll just give this one to you in the chat. Okay. Figured it out. And it's going to return movie quotes. Cool. So here you've got runtime, budget in millions, box office. There you go. So now we can see this was a successful request. We can go back to our all movies request and update the authorization to use a type of inherit auth from parent, and it should still continue to work, right? So this authorization is inheriting from its parent, and the parent is the collection folder. And in that collection folder, we have the authorization set to use that token. So if we go back to our all movies tab, if we go back to this authorization folder, and instead of giving it the token, we just change this to inherit auth from parent. If we send this again, it should still work. Cool. Sweet. All right. So basically, we covered all the basics of what you can do with Postman there, gets and posts. Pretty interesting stuff. Play around with it a bit. I'll post some more things on Blackboard for what you can do asynchronously with Postman. Just some little fun projects and whatever, and things that you can follow along. There's a lot more that you can do with Postman. So you can use environment variables if you're working on a project. So if you're developing in a production environment, instead of creating separate requests, you can add environment variables and then switch between environments and use those variables in different scenarios. You can import and export your collections and your data. You can do automated testing. There's a ton of different functionality. So yeah, just play around with it, get more comfortable. If you can find other APIs that are public, you can't see all responses in a collection on one page. What do you mean by that, Mega?
So responses can only be, we are checking like multiple responses. We're clicking on individual requests, right? There's no way where we can see combined where for all requests we made in collection.
I see. So like here for our Pokemon example, you'd want to see like this request and this request at the same time?
Yeah, on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, I uh, maybe if you go like this and then add it. The thing is or maybe there's a way to split the screen. Like up here, we've got this Pokemon and then we've got this Pokemon. If I bring this out, let's see. There might be a way for me to do it. But generally, each request is going to have its own tab up here. So like this is me switching between Pokemon and abilities. You can see I'm clicking in between the two. And then you can close them, you know, as you see fit. But each request is going to have its own page kind of thing, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you.
Sweet.
Got it.
Any other questions about Postman while we're on the topic? Sweet. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, that's all I've got for you guys for APIs today. I'll post some more stuff for you guys to work on asynchronously. I don't want to keep, was it Mega? Was it you that was in India still? Someone who's up at like 2 a.m. Super late, so I'll let you go
Yeah,
to
that's
bed.
correct.
That's you, yeah. Okay, cool. So you can get to bed on time. I will post more stuff on Blackboard. You can just keep an eye on that, and then I'll make some announcements if there's anything for you guys to that you need to know there. But yeah, thanks. That was a great first day, first intro to all the classes. I'm looking forward to the rest of the semester with you guys. It seems like it'll be, you know, really fun working on some of these projects together. And yeah, have a good weekend, everyone. It's a long weekend, so enjoy your holiday Monday. It's supposed to be sweet weather. Awesome. No worries, Nina. You have a good weekend. Yeah, thanks, guys. All right. I will upload the recordings to Blackboard. Um, yep, thank you. Take care. Take care. All right. Have a good one, guys. Thanks.